Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Norwood Planning Board. My name is Rob Bamber and I serve as chair of the board. Quorum is present and the meeting is therefore called to order. Tonight's proceedings will go as follows. Public hearings will be opened by reading the legal notice into the record. The applicant will have the opportunity to make their presentation to the board. The board members may then ask questions of the applicant. Once the board has concluded its questioning, I will open the hearing to the public for comment. All members of the public in attendance who wish to ask a question or make a comment must wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking. Once recognized, be prepared to state your name and address for the record and speak loudly for all to hear. All questions and comments must be directed through the chair, and I will call upon board members and/or the applicant as needed to respond. The board will then move into a period of deliberation where it will determine whether or not it closes the public hearing and moves to a vote or continues the public hearing to a later date. A few quick reminders before we begin. We request that participants in this evening's meeting remain respectful to attendees, board members, applicants, and staff. Please be concise in your comments and presentations to ensure that sufficient time is available for others to comment and for the board to deliberate. Please turn your phones to silent and refrain from side conversations so that all participants in the meeting can hear. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is site plan approval, 425 University Ave. Welcome.
Do you want me to share the plans?
Yeah, that'd be great. Good evening. Dan Marican with Legacy Engineering. Chris Martin is here with me tonight, property owner and business owner for Kramer Productions. Here we go. So 425 University Ave is the last building on University before you get to Canton Street on the left, right on the corner. The property owner was in the process of, oh, we lost it.
I'm just sharing so that anyone who's following along on Zoom can also
Gotcha.
see the presentation. This one. There you go.
So they were in the process of putting solar panels on the roof of the building. And one of the issues that came up with the fire department is at the front of the building here, there's two rows of angled parking. One facing this way, one facing the other way, and there's a narrow driving aisle in between those. And the fire department requested that parking be reconfigured so that they'd have a traditional minimum 20-foot wide fire lane from the entrance on the right side there of those spaces. What they asked for was for the applicant to eliminate all the parking spaces along the building right in front there. I'll travel with this here. This is where the fire department connection is. So the fire department asked that we eliminate this little island here and eliminate a little bit of landscape island in this area. This is not actually the latest plan, but the 26th. You can throw that back up, and I can show you what it's going to be. Basically, the only thing that's not on this plan was the last change they asked for is to move this curb line back like this. These all go away so that the fire department can come in here and have this whole area for themselves. And then there'll be 8 angled spaces here, and then these spaces are converted to 5 parallel spaces so that the fire department would then be able to move around. There's a little deck here, so we can't really easily modify that. So they'll be able to move around and go through and out. So it's a change to those parking spaces. It results in a reduction of 14 parking spaces, but there's still 118 parking spaces on the site, which the property owner is comfortable with. It's enough for their employees. They don't have a lot of people coming and going to the property. It's a It's a production company, so a lot of the stuff is just employees come to the site. And they've been there for a long time, 20 years? 1995. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Just one question for myself. The blue striped angled parking directly against the building, is that staying?
Nope, those are being
Going away,
eliminated.
okay.
So that little island in the middle goes away, so that whole area will be open and paid for the fire department to be able to pull a truck right up to the fire department connection.
Does
They're definitely
anyone-
getting coal in their stocking this year.
They're putting solar on the roof.
Well, they're just getting more parking spots. Quick question
Sure,
for,
Mrs. Homewood.
sorry. I look, are we 100-foot wetland buffer? Anything about that? It's right in the parking spots, but we're getting rid of the parking spots anyway? Just gonna blacktop over that? You're good with that?
Yeah, so the limit of the parking lot isn't changing. The parking spaces that are striped are changing, so they're
They're just going to black out the existing lines and paint new lines on the pavement. So the removal of the islands is outside of the buffer zone.
Oh, okay.
The wetland's on the other side of
So the blue
University Ave.
spaces are going, the red spaces are staying?
Yes, the red spaces are getting reconfigured.
Okay.
They're just basically repainting the pavement.
And I had one other question on recommendations for our ILUCs on number 7. No deviation from approved site plan shall be permitted without prior approval of the planning board and/or community development department. Could we be notified if, thank you. That's it for me.
Yes, Joe.
Just what's the difference in the number of spaces?
It's a reduction of 14 from 132 to 118.
And that's enough, that fits the bill?
Yeah, this is one of those codes where it says the building commissioner decides how many are needed. There's no minimum requirement for this particular use.
And most of it's employees, as you said?
Yeah, and I asked the applicant this, and they said that typically they have 80 to 100 cars on site, so with 118, they should be fine.
And they're going up a floor on,
Nope.
no?
No, they were just putting solar on the roof, which required a building permit, which triggered involvement by the fire department, and then the fire department asked that the applicant make this change to their parking facility.
We have another one later that they did that. Sorry.
No problem.
All right, that's good.
Anyone?
Oh, I'd just like to say it's, I have no questions, Mr. Chairman. Just, it's a great business down there, and the people are, they really do some incredible things down there, and it's like a hidden gem as far as a Norwood business.
It's a really neat company.
It really is a neat company, and it's kind of tucked away near our A zone, if you know what that is. But no questions about this, it's fine.
Great.
Yes, so one thing, great on the solar panels, I'm a huge advocate for that. And the island with the tree that's gonna go away, are you gonna locate that tree somewhere else?
Yeah, one of the conditions, one of the recommended conditions that the applicant install 2 trees elsewhere on the site in existing landscape areas. So we will do that.
Good. I'm fine.
All right.
It's taking some time, but I don't even have to ask him.
Can I entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve, along with the recommendations that are listed, 1 through 8.
Second. The recommendations are just standard.
I looked at those.
Okay, good.
They're all
Okay.
good, yep.
And
Eight
the
of
only
them?
one that's non-standard is just about the addition of those 2 trees
Right.
in
Correct.
other landscaped areas.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
One other quick question. Does the skate club use your lot? They do? Okay.
Yeah, they ask every once in a while when they have a busy season, and they'll have a possible show in the back, generally on the weekends when we're not there.
Because they got a big Skate America coming up, so it's very exciting.
They'll use that as a satellite spot.
very exciting. We didn't have to put new blacktop. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you
All right,
very much.
Thank you very much. Be well.
All right, next up on our agenda, site plan approval for 568 to 580 Pleasant Street. Do I have an applicant available to speak on that?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Campbell from Level Design Group on behalf of the applicant.
Good evening. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Again, my name is Dan Campbell. On behalf of the applicant, we're looking to expand the existing parking lot at Compete Fitness, as you said, 560, 580, 580R Pleasant Street there in Norwood. The project was originally approved in 2015. As part of the approval, there was design consideration for expansion at the time. The original approval contained some gravel parking areas, gravel snow storage, as well as a garage. The gravel was installed, the garage was not. What we're looking to do is we're looking to expand the overall area. So if you don't mind me sharing my screen.
I think you should be able to go ahead. It's the little box with the upward pointing arrow at the bottom.
An arrow at the bottom, huh? Nope, I'm not allowed to share.
Okay, one sec.
Perfect. Hopefully, we can. Hopefully you can see the site plan.
Not yet.
Do we know what page it is on the plans we have you're looking for?
Do you have more than one screen?
Yeah, it just says I'm not allowed to screen here. It's fine. So what I'm looking at is sheet C2 if you want to pull it up in-house. The intention for the overall project is to expand the overall parking lot essentially to the north. There we go. So you can see this now.
Just a second.
There it is.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So we're looking to expand the parking lot to the north side of the overall site and reconfigure the parking lot as a whole. We're installing some interior islands. The biggest hang-up between when we made the original submission and now was garnering fire department approval, and that had to do with access to the FTC at the front of the building. The building expansion, which precipitates this, is actually going to be a second floor mezzanine, not a first floor expansion. So if you can see the outline of the second floor building, it's going to be over the front office space of the structure, and it will be above ground. So we're removing the driveway underneath that portion of the building, and we're going to replace it with landscape areas, since the building will be high enough that we will be able to grow some grass and leave the landscaping that exists there. In the project as a whole, we installed in the original project an underground drain system at the rear of the site and an underground drain system at the front of the site. Both these drain systems anticipated the additional pavement as part of the original drain system so that we wouldn't have to pull up the parking lot prior to the installation of more pavement. I did receive comments from staff. Unfortunately, just today, I did respond to those comments and did submit them back to staff as well. The overall comments captured three areas, I believe, landscaping being the primary one. We do meet the landscaping standard of 5% internal parking area landscape. The second area has to do with setbacks from the residential district. Across the street from our site is residential. In the original application in 2015, the way it was defined was from the middle of the road, 50 feet. Now, reading 6.3, as Ilex has pointed out, it's 50 feet from the site frontage. If we were to adhere to that, we'd have to remove these front 3 parking spaces, though there were parking spaces as part of the original approval in that location. And the last overall or overriding concern was the drainage. As I said, the drainage itself was installed to handle the additional pavement. From the original design to this design, we have approximately 2,000 square feet of additional pavement over and above what was originally anticipated. But we do submit the calculations, and it is handled adequately by the drain system. I don't know who has been to the property and who has not been to the property, but the property itself is fairly well maintained. The frontage is maintained, though not planted necessarily as Alex points out as Ilex points out in her memo, the front 2 buildings are going to be maintained. This driveway is going to be moved over into this grass area.
You're
Some
breaking up.
additional parking is going to be proposed in this area. And as I said, we're going to be cantilever mezzanine on top of this wall space. Believe it or not, for
I'm
whatever
not getting
reason, Google Street View has the ability to drive through the
Mr.
site.
Campbell,
So you can see.
Mr.
sort of
Campbell.
neighboring
Mr.
properties.
Campbell.
Just a minute. I think the
Yes.
board members didn't catch what you were saying about moving the driveway over. If you could
You
go
were
back and
breaking up a
repeat
little
that.
bit there.
Sure. I apologize. So I'll go back out to the street.
Thank you.
What we're looking to do on the plans is we're looking to move the driveway into the area of the existing foliage, and we're looking to put parking basically where this driveway is, cutting out a piece in this location that's going to be landscaping. The proposed building is going to be an addition on top of this existing office space addition in the front, and it will expand to approximately the edge of this grass area, removing this driveway as part of the construction. The driveway or the parking spaces on the other side will remain, but that driveway will be removed. And you can see the site as a whole, some of the landscaping that will have to be replaced behind the adjacent structure. All 3 structures that you see, this structure, the building behind me, the main building, and this structure are all owned by the same owner on the same property. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about the project as a whole, or if there are specific questions in regards to the response to comments or the plans.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So just to go over landscaping, it does currently meet the bylaw for your 5%.
It does meet the bylaw for the 5%. We're not over by much, but we are over by about 160 square feet.
Any comment on that, Alex?
Yeah, so thank you for confirming that calculation, Dan. That was a question that I had. My other comments about landscaping related to looking for a diverse native mix of plantings, as well as some herbaceous plantings like ground cover type flowers that would bloom throughout the season. The other landscaping, I think the point about moving the driveway over relates pretty strongly to landscaping, because in the current site plan that was approved, there are a number of, I think they're red cedars that are planted that buffer that home from the manufacturing building
It's a
that's
sports
behind it.
building.
It's a sports building. It's in a manufacturing zone, as is the single-family house. Thank you. And my preference would be that those existing landscaping elements be retained rather than cut down and having a buffer replanted closer to that house. And I think that that would also be in keeping with that section 6.3 about the 50-foot buffer between manufacturing and residential that starts at the lot line, which requires that the first 50 feet be planted in a park-like fashion with the exception of access drives.
Okay.
If I may address.
Yes, Mr. Campbell,
these from
please.
the beginning. That way we can go one by one. So we did ask the fire department specifically about maintaining the existing driveway. And if you noticed in the existing conditions plan, the existing driveway to the main drive aisle has a jog in it. It jogs left. The fire department did comment that they would rather have a straight access onto the site rather than the jogged access that we were having. So if you see the existing driveway here, as you come up to the building, you essentially have to jog left to get into the main drive aisle. With the proposal, we're moving the driveway over to straighten that main drive aisle, partially at the request of the fire department. We did ask them specifically about leaving that jog in, changing the parking around in the front, and they did ask us to maintain it as a straight drive aisle, especially with the expansion. Having to do with the landscaping, I do understand the 6.3. It is, however, to a residential zone, not a residential use. And we do maintain, as I said, if it's from the lot line, we would have to remove these 3 front parking spaces and we would have to landscape in that area. That doesn't really solve the problem that you're looking at, Alex, but that technically would meet the letter of the law. Having to do with the landscaping internal to the islands, after I made that response to comments, I did notice that we had already changed the holly. It's not the Japanese holly anymore, but I do understand we need more robust ground cover associated with that, including flowering plants. And certainly as a condition of approval, I'd be more than willing to get a landscape plan together in conjunction with you to make sure that we've got the plantings that you would like in those islands.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Dan,
Ernie, do you have
Ilex crenata, the common name is Japanese holly. I think that's what you propose.
I'm sorry, Ernie, did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
a couple of questions. Are you all set? Dan, just
Yes, sir.
a couple of things. 568, the house, is that, you said you guys own that? That's same owner?
It is the same owner, it's the same property.
Okay.
Both houses.
So that house is, what zone is that in? Is that in manufacturing?
Yeah.
So,
It
But
is-
it's
a
residential
manufacturing
across
across the street?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so 6.3 is really, we're talking about across the street.
Right, but it says that where there's a road that separates the zones.
Yeah, it used to be in
It
the
starts
middle.
at the frontage.
No, it starts at
of
the
the
front.
property.
Let me ask you, those additional parking spaces that you're proposing, going back, let me see, I'm on C2. Are you putting them in for need or because you want to meet zoning?
It is a need, not a zoning requirement.
It's a-
We
it's a-
are required 78 spaces. We have shown 95.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of turnover at a facility like this,
So-
so we are looking for the extra parking spaces.
So that's for need.
As I said, it's definitely for need. We
Okay.
can drop those 3 spaces and still be compliant with zoning.
And then what's the, I'm sorry, I might have just, you might have been talking to Ilex about this a second ago. So you're gonna remove what's there, shift everything left, put a straight run in. What's proposed against that 568? What kind of shrubs are you proposing?
It's the same that's there. We plan on moving the ones that exist.
Over, okay,
Correct.
all right.
Oh.
Okay,
If you noticed on the Google Street View, some of the plantings behind the house are actually planted directly through the pavement that is there. So they will be in a much better environment once we put them in grass
okay, all
or landscaping bed.
right, that's, Dan, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on, yes?
Just a question, is there an issue in front of conservation at this time?
I was just there.
Yes, an RDA, request for determination of applicability, has been filed with Conservation Commission.
And how does that affect here? Is it just down the back that the issue is?
So with what I have pulled up on screen, sir, I'm happy to show you. This 200-foot buffer zone, which exists through the existing parking lot, is to the Neponset River out on the side of the page over here. So the request for determination was because the GIS shows a wetlands behind the property. As I put in my response, the wetlands that was shown on the GIS was investigated in 2015 by both our consultant and by the conservation agent at the time. It was investigated again by myself, and then we retained Gowder Consulting, Tom Schultz, investigated it, submitted a report and a sketch, both of which say that GIS wetlands does not exist, only the riverfront area does. So certainly we are in front of conservation for all of these reasons, but with the buffer zones that we currently have on the plan, even if the wetlands existed at the back of the property, nothing that we are currently doing, barring restriping that back parking lot, is within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Any other comments on,
So you're not repaving the parking lot as part of this proposal?
Currently, we're not repaving the parking lot as part of this proposal.
Okay.
yes, Mrs. Homewood?
Okay, I was down there around 2:35 today. Took a bunch of pictures, if anybody on the board would like to see them. We meet the 5% requirement, is that, I don't know where that is, and as I drove all the way to the back of the building, there is nothing but a chain link fence and some old, I mean, it's fall or winter, whatever, so some trees that are, shrubs that are brown. Where's the buffer zone? And is all the 5%, is all the 5% of your landscaping required? That's all I need is 5%?
So I think Dan is saying that in the proposed plan, there's 5% provided, not in the existing conditions.
And is that all on the two front properties, 568 and 580?
No,
I
so
didn't see any
the
green.
5% is actually required internal parking lot islands. So in the proposal, we have two
Yeah.
new islands going in the angled parking to the left-hand side.
Here and here, right?
And then we're recreating or building a parking island around the rear left corner, or the northeast corner of the building, creating a new parking island in that location.
Okay,
So those three islands, as well as the jut-out fingered island at the front of the site, meet the requirements within the 5%. There's not a periphery landscape requirement, with the exception, as Alex noted, as to varied species and things of that nature. So we have attempted to replant the periphery of the site, as well as replant adjacent to the residential structures at the front of the site. We are not counting any of the landscaping around the residential structures in those numbers.
okay. I know this building has been there a long time, as the houses have, and we didn't require any kind of green or buffer or anything when we blacktopped from corner to corner. I think we have universally as a board and a town been trying to put a little remedy to that. I was down there last week and I was down there today. I have a whole bunch of pictures if anybody wants to see them. I would request that we don't need any more than the 78 required spaces. Are you including the ones where you have the, what is it called, AstroTurf or something? Where you flip a tire? That's all along the
Sure,
building?
all of that would be removed.
But those are gonna be parking spots?
Correct. Currently, the AstroTurf is on top of parking spots.
Right.
It is a requirement of the business. Otherwise, we'll withdraw the site plan application. They really do need the extra parking, and that's the only reason we're here.
So you need, refresh my memory?
We're requesting 95. If we remove the 3 at the front of the site, we end up with 92. And that really is minimum for this applicant. They have a large amount of turnover. They have younger drivers as their primary participants at the facility. And that is one of the reasons that not only we have angled parking to direct the flow, but it is the reason for the additional parking because there are people coming and going quite frequently.
Okay, so may I ask, because on the, behind 58, or to the right of 580 when you pull in,
Correct.
are those included in the 95 that you're asking for?
They are.
And then when you go past 580, there's a big open space there. That's where your overhang is going to be from the current building, because there's a lot of stuff outside, and there's a lot of, there was 2 cars parked back there. So those are going away?
The cars are going away and the driveway is going away, correct.
It's gonna be grass.
How's that gonna be grass if you got the overhang from the building there?
The overhang's 18 or 19 feet in the air. So it leaves plenty of area for air and sunlight.
So am I correct in this red box and behind 580 where there's cars and there's barbells and weightlifting stuff and all that against the building, that's all blacktop, but you're going to make that green?
So behind 580, between 580 and the existing building, as I
Yep.
said, is a driveway currently, as well as egress stairs for 580. We are providing a cantilever building which will remove all of that pavement. Part of the reason for this project is to get rid of all of the barbells and everything else. They're going to have new weight rooms on the second floor of this facility. They're looking to open up space. That's the whole idea. They're bursting at the seams.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Debbie, do you have any more on that?
If you take out the bump, or you take out the aisle, do you know how many square footage that is going in between 580 and 565, or 568?
The square feet of the aisle itself,
Yep.
well, it's 28 feet by 114 feet,
Yeah, I mathematically
or
challenged.
about 3,192 square feet.
So you're gonna take that out and put it where?
It's going to be pavement in the parking lot, but we don't need, essentially it ends up being impervious regardless, because you've got a building over top of it. I can't count the grass under there for landscaping or non-impervious area because.
I'm talking about going in the driveway.
The driveway itself is removed.
No. Coming off of Pleasant, take a right
Okay.
into the driveway.
Yeah,
You wanted, the fire department asked to get rid of the bump. And
Correct.
take out the landscapings there and move it to,
It gets shifted over to the left, closer to the house.
same amount of it?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
You can see it on C2. You can see the plantings going down to the right of 568.
You're looking, so you're here.
Right,
Yeah, so
I understand where, I just wanted to know how much square feet you're taking out, and are you gonna replace that amount of square footage? Is that a difficult question?
No, of green space?
Of green space?
oh, okay.
Is that a hard question?
No, Mr. Campbell, she's wondering if you're removing or if you're adding green space to this parking lot.
I now fully understand. I apologize for the misunderstanding. So, as a whole, the reality is, we're going to be adding green space. If you look at the functionality of the parking lot, it doesn't appear that way. If I may, go back to the Google Street View.
Yes, of course.
So at the Google
So
Street
sick
View,
of being mansplained to, I
for the
could
site,
storm out of here. I might be flipping tables. Fine.
for the site as a whole, you can see on the left-hand side of this parking lot, at the time of the Google Street View, there were a few shrubs that were along the side of the site over here, but there's essentially gravel pavement along that entire edge. As you can see on the site, the pavement goes right up to the edge of the building. There's parking lot up to the edge of the pavement. What we're planning on doing is creating a comprehensive planting plan and comprehensive edge of pavement. One of Alex's comments in the letter that was presented to us had to do with the previous planner, Mr. Halakiotis' comments that the site didn't have the proper curbing installed. We're resolving that with the site plan as a whole because we're planning on putting concrete curb or granite curb around the entire property. So this landscaping plan will now have a defined edge to it. So there won't be any more creep, is the intention.
Okay.
Ms. Holman, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions on landscaping from the board at this time?
Just, there's no waivers on this, right?
This is,
Nothing, they're not asking for anything that's not required.
well, we're still in between a couple of questions from, it looks like the fire department had some questions that,
I think, I heard from the fire department this afternoon that they were happy with the plan.
okay, I'm just going down the list. Stormwater runoff rates. There was a calculation previously made that would allow for extra pavement. You gave yourself some room on the last go-around.
We gave ourselves room on the last go-round, not only because the site was primarily paved to begin with, but we intended ultimately to be presenting a plan similar to this. So we were aware that we were going to be presenting this plan. In fact, we showed some of the potential expansions when we did the original application. Unfortunately, I missed by a little over 2,000 square feet. It was the impervious space that we're covering. As I said, that doesn't account for the fact that we're taking out the pavement underneath the cantilever, but that is technically covered because it's roof area that is over regardless of what's underneath it. So we included that in the calculation as well.
Alex, does that make sense if you're basically changing runoff that would be on the ground to runoff that would be on the roof, that the stormwater could handle X or Y either way?
So the big change to stormwater is really the, changing that snow storage gravel area into pavement, I think. And I agree with Mr. Campbell that this plan is an improvement over the conditions that were on the site in 2015 prior to this development. Typically, when someone comes for site plan review, one of the things they have to do is if they're adding impervious, they have to improve the existing conditions. So the board will have to make a determination about whether the existing conditions in this case are the conditions that were there in 2015 before the building was built, or the conditions that are there now. I always, as you all know, try to encourage applicants to provide as much stormwater infiltration and treatment as possible because of all the flooding problems that we have in town. Aside from improving the conditions that are on the site currently, I think that this plan meets the standards that are in the state stormwater handbook, which is what the zoning bylaw references.
Any questions on
Sounds good.
runoff?
Does this have, this is a whole new plan, it has nothing to do with the one from 2015, correct?
We are not making any modifications to the drainage from the 2015 plan. What we've shown is we are still decreasing the overall runoff from what was originally on the property. In 2 cases, we're decreasing it over what it is today. In 1 case, we're increasing what it is today by 0.11 CFS, and it is still lower than it was in 2015. So the increase of 0.11 CFS is approximately a gallon of water in the peak flow coming off the site over and above what it is today.
That's what I had
Mr.
too.
Campbell, do you think that that would go away if those first 3 parking spots in the 50-foot buffer were eliminated and made to be a landscaped area?
That is a fantastic question. We're eliminating, by doing that, we're eliminating, let's say, 3. We're eliminating 1,458 square feet of the 2,100 square feet. So it's very likely that we would be at or below.
So I think that if the board wanted to issue site plan approval tonight, doing so with conditions that would require a revised plan be submitted prior to construction that eliminates those first 3 parking spots and meets the requirements of the landscaping in terms of native species and a mix of species. I think that would solve the majority of my comments.
Mr. Pachakowski?
I just, to your point, Alex, though, is the applicant okay with that? I'm not quite sure I heard that he's okay with eliminating those 3 spaces.
We're okay with eliminating those 3 spaces.
You are, okay. I just wanted, I didn't hear that, I know it's a recommendation of the planning department, but I didn't know if you're okay with it, then I would support that, and that kind of makes everything nice.
And if it's a condition, as I said before, I'd like to coordinate the landscape plan with Ilex prior to, an actual final construction set.
No
just
problem.
to make sure that we've got the plantings that she's looking for.
That's not an issue tonight. I think that's fine. In my opinion, that's fine.
Thank you, Ernie. Shall we move on to lighting? I have a list here, Mr. Campbell, so it's just a couple more.
Absolutely.
More notes here. We're hoping for a photometric plan. Is that possible? Are we?
So the request was the photometric plan for the lights that are physically installed on the structure. I'm happy to provide that. My suggestion was a photometric plan that also includes the originally required light at the edge of the parking lot. They will diminish each other, so, I want it comprehensive, but that's perfectly acceptable.
Great. Parking, we talked about parking. Bicycle racks, yeah, this is a gym. Should we have bicycle racks? That's on our list of things that we'd be interested in.
The irony is, in 9 years, I've never seen anybody walk or bike to the gym, but as I put in my letter, the total ends up being 5 required bicycle racks. I think a perfect place is right under that cantilever, right on the edge of the sidewalk. It gives a good place outside of the FDC area, as well as in what we're proposing as accessible landscape area, so it makes sense.
Beautiful. Buffers, how do we address buffers? Because that's kind of tied in with our,
That would be addressed by eliminating those first 3 parking spots that are within the first
Okay.
50 feet of the road.
okay, and those are really the only buffers in question that would really be affected. We're not changing anything on the perimeter.
Correct.
The perimeter isn't within, what triggers the buffer is being within 50 feet of a residential zone. So the buffers are, the other sides are abutting manufacturing rather than residential.
Okay. There's a note here. Parking stall bollards were included in a previous plan. Is that what I'm?
Yeah.
Are we, Mr. Campbell, are you aware of that? The parking stall bollards had not been installed. There was an inspection in 2016 apparently from a previous.
Mr. Helkiotis.
For Mr. Halkidis.
Yes.
So, yes, absolutely. So first, I'm guessing he meant the actual bollards. Because there were no internal landscape islands as part of the first approval, we had bollards at the corners of the building because if somebody turned the corner too fast, they'd hit the building. So we did have bollards at the corners. The necessity of those is eliminated with this plan because now we've got a planting island there. You have to really want to hit it, similar to a grocery store. I believe after that inspection, they did put in the concrete wheel stops at the front of the parking spaces, which was a request. So if the concrete wheel stops is what he's referencing, which unfortunately I don't really know, those were put in, although no longer necessary in this plan either.
Does anyone have any comments or questions on the bollards or the Cape Cod berm? Ms. Homewood?
Along with the 2016 plan from Mr. Halakiotis was, in addition, 6 trees were proposed, a minor modification to the 2016 proposed to move 4 of those trees to the property frontage along Pleasant Street. Were those done?
There were trees that were moved. I don't know that the trees survived, but we are planning on planting additional trees and shrubs along that left-hand side. I feel like when I'm going through this with Ilex, they will have some comments on the landscaping having to do with that building, and I'm more than happy to amend that.
Okay, so we're not taking, any of the stuff that wasn't done from the 2016 plan, we're just kind of moving on to this plan, right? Am I correct on that?
We're making a new and trying to comply with current regulations having to do with the landscaping.
Okay, and you did mention you're doing curbing, could we be specific, because it was Cape Cod berm, and you had mentioned concrete or granite. Have you picked one?
Oh, it's granite at the curb returns to the street, because that's the requirement of the DPW. As we go through the driveway entrance, it's granite. As the granite radii come around, it's going to transition to precast concrete.
Perfect. I don't care as long as it's in the front. Okay. Can we make that a part of the condition?
It is shown on the plan.
Okay. On 2.2 something?
Yeah, C.2.
C.2?
Sorry, 2.0. You can see that it's mentioned at the front of the site, proposed concrete curbing as a typical, as well as the transition from granite to concrete,
The writing's
shown in
too small.
that front section as well.
Yeah, it's too small for me to read. Okay. All right.
Gonna blow it up.
I promise it's there.
Okay.
And does anyone have any comments in general or any thoughts on any of the things we went over?
Covered what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's good.
No, you already covered.
Mr. Patrickowski?
If you're ready, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion if there's no other comments.
Alex, are you comfortable with everything?
I am, so long as the conditions we talked about
Yeah.
are included.
And which are they, what are they that you're making? a
Well, I'm
motion?
gonna, if you're ready,
I'll entertain a
okay.
motion, Ernie. Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve with the following conditions, that a new plan showing 3 parking spots removed be submitted to the planning department for Ilex and Sarah's approval. Photometric plan be included. The landscaping, Ilex and Sarah and the planning department will approve that, and the addition of a couple of bicycle racks placed at the discretion of the applicant. Does that cover everything?
I think so.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Yes, Ms. Holmwood.
So the total spots now is 92? Is that correct?
92 proposed, correct.
Several pair, these are the most.
Okay. And we're still at the 5% landscape total, right?
It'll be better.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have a signed site plan approval for 175 to 179 Railroad Ave. Is the applicant in attendance?
They're not online, so it seems like they are not with us.
They are not here. Okay.
I would suggest moving ahead with the review if the board is comfortable
Okay.
doing
Has
so.
anyone had a chance to look at this?
I did.
Yes,
What do you think?
I like it.
I do too.
it's pretty fast.
It's good looking.
Unfortunately, there's a telephone pole right in the middle. But, looks great.
Yeah, looks good.
So they're asking for forgiveness as opposed to proposing?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Like the hamburger joint.
Well, it's an attractive sign. It's lettering, black lettering, big,
It's up.
large letters.
It's up?
Yep. Driven by it. It's good.
Do you know what number 7 means?
Yes. It's
That's
the
the fire engine,
station.
right?
It was the fire station, right where St. Catherine's Rectory is. That was the number 7 fire station. The CPA just gave money last year for the bell to be, the number 7 bell to be fixed up, and they're actually gonna place it on the Washington Street. So that's where Washington number 7 is. It's the old fire
Well, that's
station.
what I thought.
Yeah, okay,
It's beautiful.
But it was
The
not.
original fire station.
Awesome.
cool.
There you go, and there you have it.
Thank you, Ernie.
Well played, well played.
Are they open yet?
No?
Do they have their CO yet?
No, they're close. They're close to opening.
And is there, so, it has nothing to do with us, but is the parking, they can't park across the street where the ballet place used to be, right? They can't, where do you park?
Park it in, you park where you park to go to the, when you
Town
went to the
Hall,
Shamrock. You
Cottage
park-
Street,
You park where you
Ernie,
park.
I haven't
when you
been to
go
the Shamrock that much, I didn't
They
ever
might-
park there.
They might
parallel
have-
parking all along
I
Washington
mean,
Street.
They might have
I did a bar
something where
crawl
they
once,
can
but I
park
walked.
in that
Where do you
parking
park
lot.
when you go to
To
the
the
Liney's? I
Heaven?
mean, where, you know, they don't have their own parking lot.
I haven't been there either. Okay,
You're really missing out.
I know.
Previously,
Park in the
the
town hall lot.
previously the depot, previously Connie Murphy.
Okay, but this sign complies, correct? That's what
Yes.
your notes say.
Yeah, the original application said it was just over 30 square feet, but they clarified that it's actually 20 square feet, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'll
You
make
need
a
for
motion to
approval?
approve.
Yes, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved to approve?
Second? Let's give it up to him.
I got a motion and a second. Any last comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. 5-0.
All right.
One more time, an announcement. We have the comprehensive plan. I don't know if this will air in time, but we have the comprehensive plan event Tuesday, tomorrow, December 10th, between 6 and 8 p.m. at the library. So please come by and check it out. Let us know what you think.
And may I make a comment? Barbara Kinter passed away this week, and she was
6 to 8.
a friend. She did a lot for the town. She was on the ZBA for years and years. She was a member of the town committee with me, and I would just like to say she will be missed.
She will be. Nice
Barbara was a
lady.
hot ticket.
Oh, yes.
I know she was on the ZBA in 2004, and I know she was on the ZBA in 2019. Was she on it that whole time? Okay.
She was on quite a lot, quite a long time.
So she's missed, and then I wanted to ask one quick question, which I got when we were, two people and myself have asked about the parking down on University Ave that we fought about last year. Remember, across from the collision guy? It's not University Ave. What, the parking that he was supposed, no, it's across in Vanderbilt, in the Vanderbilt area.
The big
Oh.
new cars. The BMW.
The building inspector
Road.
has been down there and did
Is
issue
that Carrie?
a notice of violation about that.
Right, and I gotta keep paying 99 cents for more storage on my phone, because I have all these damn pictures on my phone. That
That's
was,
good, send them to
and
the
the
building
cars get
inspector.
moved, and when you get yelled, and then he's supposed to be gone by July, wasn't it July that we all agreed on board? It was a long, hard fight, yes, no?
I remember.
Yes?
We adjourn the meeting
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yes. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Trying, kids.
Aye. Good night, thank you.
Good night.